Hi, Glasson here from Now Spinning Magazine with another unboxing video, and I have promised this one for a while, and it is Alice Cooper. Now this is the studio albums from 1969 to 1983, okay? It contains, I think it's 15 CDs going through the whole of his career up to that point. I so hope there is a volume 2 which goes through the 80s, 90s and beyond. Now, Alice Cooper is a very special artist, and I think this is something I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back to the summer of 1972. 13 this time. You know, a mere slip of a kid, really. I hated school. I was rubbish at it. I was rubbish at everything. I don't think there was one lesson I was good at all. I remember it was Top of the Pops, and this band came on with the longest hair I'd ever seen. It was Alice Cooper, and the song was called School's Out. And my dad just hated it. You've probably seen this clip. It's when there's loads of bubbles on Top of the Pops, and Alice Cooper's got like a sword and he's bursting them and stuff. The riff, the song, the chorus, the words about, you know, school's out forever, and it was talking about me. It was a song about exactly how I felt. And we used to live for these 6 weeks off in the summer when schools were out, and we just went to the park every day. And and there was this song. And the other thing about this period, and this is why it's so important to me to push new music, is when think back to that time when the bands were like, I've mentioned this before, they were like your older brothers. They were either your age or a bit older. Obviously, I was 13, so they were all older than me. But you know what I mean. When I got to became 20s, so the bands in their 20s. But so then there's like this, the fact that there was this song that was about being a school kid and about not liking it, and I just loved it. And I remember a friend, it was one of my mates over the road, was one of the first of my friends to get a cassette player, and he'd recorded it off the radio, because it was before I was buying records really, and they were expensive. And he got it, and he said, I can play School's Out if you like. And I remember he put it on so I could hear it, not just like waiting by the radio for it to come on. You know, you could spend like hours waiting for your favourite song to come on. Nowadays, Spotify, you go play this, or put it, you know what I mean. And he put it on, and I couldn't stop smiling. I just loved it so much. It was just fantastic. And then I didn't buy the album. I didn't have any money. So 73, this comes out, and you've got Hello Hooray. That vocal delivery of like, I felt like, you know, coming of age, because by this time I was 14. I'm arriving. And then there was that track, Elected. I remember the video for that, and all the sound effects and everything. I just thought, this is just brilliant. Now, what makes Alice Cooper to me a unique musician? He just does what he wants to do. And I think we went through a stage, probably still are really, where bands go, I'm this, and that's what I do. Alice Cooper has moulded himself into the fashions of the day and been at the top of the mountain, whatever's going on around him. You know, this is where we go through glam rock, through the 70s. Everything he's done, you know, where we got 75, which is my favourite album, you know, the Black Widow and everything. I played all the rock discos when I was growing up. And then, you know, when punk and new wave came along, he tweaked himself, changed his hair and just moved. In the 80s with heavy metal, with Poison, and you know, he came back the 90s when everything was like really thundering, brutal metal, Brutal Planet. And he's managed to just be always there doing what he does. And the albums are just unique. Each one is different. Each one is Alice Cooper, and I think he's a tremendous artist, and his latest albums are just as good, which is why I'm hoping there will be a follow-up box set to this. Anyway, let's have a look inside and I'll show you what it's all about. So Alice Cooper, the original Alice Cooper Band and Alice Cooper Solo, the studio albums from 1969 to 1968. A nice sturdy box set. These marks on it, by the way, are actually part of the design. They're not. It's not a fault that it's been scraped along something, because I know some people thought that when they bought it, but it's not. It opens up. There's no booklet, which I was very disappointed at. I was hoping that there would be a booklet with something as substantial as this, but they have redeemed themselves by doing something slightly different. So we have the first one from 1969, which is Pretties For You. This was originally on a gatefold sleeve, and they have replicated the gatefold with the pictures of the band. And the picture of the band, looking, you imagine that, 1969, that must have been so outrageous. And for the actual discs, they have also replicated the actual label design from the time. The next one was called Easy Action. This was also a gatefold cover, and they've replicated that as well. Next is probably the first classic, which is Love It to Death from 1971, which is absolutely great album. This is the one that had I'm 18 on, because the bands then could sing songs like that because they weren't that far off that age themselves, or they could certainly still remember it. And so again, this is the Warner's label. Next was Killer, another classic album, and again the gatefold sleeve as well. And this of course had the classic track Under My Wheels, which I remember seeing them perform that on the Arguello test. Then the first one that some of my friends from school had, which was School's Out. Now this doesn't, obviously the original album had a lift-up lid like a school desk, and they haven't done that. Whether that was just too hard to manufacture, I don't know, but they did do some of the gatefolds, so I'm going to let them off. Next is $1 Billion Babies, and this one they have gone a little bit further. Not only is there a gatefold sleeve with the disc in the one side, but on the opposite side they put in the dollar bill, which was in the original vinyl, and also the insert, which would have been the lyric sheet on the other side. You might need a magnifying glass to see this, but it is printed for you to read if you can. So, superb. Next was Muscle of Love, and this was in a big cardboard box, if I remember rightly. But what they have done is, if there's an insert inside it, they have recreated it. And I think that, to me, they could have not done the booklet and those either. So there is some detail in them as well. My favourite Alice Cooper album ever is Welcome to My Nightmare, because it has the Black Widow on it, Devil's Food, and of course Stephen, etc. And again, the inner sleeve with the lyrics on has been replicated. And what they've also done here on this one is, this was on Atlantic Records, and they've replicated that. Now all of these albums are brilliant to me, and all of these were, again, if they came with it in a sleeve with the album in, they've replicated it. I love this one. I think this is a brilliant album. In fact, there's none of these that I don't like. Lace and Whiskey in a sleeve, and they've also replicated the whatever they used, Warner Brothers label, as I've said. And then a total classic for me, something that I've grown to love since buying this box set, is From the Inside. Nurse Rosita is one of my favourite tracks. And again, this has got a sleeve with some great pictures and the lyrics on as well. And then we had a complete change, and I remember buying this at the time, and I have to admit, I'll admit it, I did. I took it back. I bought it, played it, and took it back to Reddington's Rare Records in Birmingham. Said, I bought this by mistake. Please, can I swap it for something else? And I think I swapped it for a West Bruce and Lang album. I think I just couldn't cope with it. But now, of course, for the lens of time, I like it. And in fact, my favourite track is Headlines. But this is what's so great about Alice Cooper. He will just adapt like a chameleon to whatever's going on around him. So this is kind of like the new wave aspect of Alice Cooper here. Special Forces. And then a very low-key cover in a way for Zipper Skin, is it, if I remember rightly? Yeah, Zipper Catches Skin. Couldn't remember myself that one. And this one, which is kind of like a dark horse, really, but I do like it. There's a Bob Ezrin one called Dada. It's really, really cool. So much to discover, so much to enjoy. And if you haven't really entered the universe that is inhabited by Alice Cooper, this has got to be the best place to start. And I do hope that they do another one that goes from 1984 to where we are now. So that is Alice Cooper, the studio albums from 2015 covering 1969 to 1983. It's superb. It's quite costly now, so check out eBay and Discogs and see if you can find one. But I said the only thing missing is I would have loved a booklet with a bit of historical background and maybe even some notes from Alice himself talking about how he felt about each album and some of his favourite tracks. Wouldn't that have been superb? But I can't fault it, you know, with the little inlays, little inserts rather, and the gatefolds where necessary. It's great. And I think you realise through this period just how inventive he was. And he wasn't afraid to take risks. Sometimes it worked. Most times it did. But sometimes it didn't work quite as well. But he just kept going. And he's continued to do that to this day. An absolutely superb human being and artist. That's Alice Cooper. Highly recommended. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for those of you who've become patrons recently. Welcome aboard to the Now Spinning crew. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video.